Right, Maui, what is your good point?
Mine is you have to like not go all in on
What's this
this,
disclaimer?
but
Go on.
yeah, don't go all in on this take. But I just think that
Okay.
right now it's that there's no cope and there's no affirmative action for North America here. When I say that, I think Grim is just a really solid player now.
Okay.
That's what I want to put out there. Because when you look at this complexity team, there's just not too much to be happy about in terms of Holzerk, Fang's like really streaky and inconsistent. Floppy, I think, has actually unfortunately regressed a little bit. And then JT, despite the fact that he actually has shown he can put some structured T sides together, is still a liability against tier one teams as an individual. So what Grim has proven though in the past 6 months is very impressive. And I think when you look at his stats versus say top 5, top 10 teams, he doesn't actually fall off that badly. He's still above a 1.0 rating. If you look, I think past 6 months, last time I checked, it was like a 1.06 versus top 5 and top 10
Yep.
opponents. And that's really nice. When they played against FaZe at Pro League, for example, last year, he was the reason that they probably they actually probably could have beat FaZe. They were up 14-10 on map number 2. They almost took him out of the tournament, and it was because Grim was just going absolutely like ape shit on Inferno on the second map. But then they obviously didn't complete that victory. But really, when I watch him play now, I think all of the lessons have started becoming internalized. I think that he knows when he should take initiative. Like sometimes back in the day, I think so frequently, Grim's biggest problem was that if something's going wrong on the map, like say his team ends up in a 4v5 or even a 3v5, he would just play his favorite spot and hope for the best. And now I see him taking the right level of initiative. And I think that's through a lot of trial and error. I would say that the first half of 2022 and kind of actually basically most of his time on complexity, he was kind of figuring out when should I push, when should I not. I think on Liquid 2 he was probably trying that, but then Stewie was telling him he was bad, so he probably couldn't actually try as hard, or like really he didn't want to make mistakes. And I think that's the big issue, and that's why probably he was turtling so often in those man deficit situations. But now I see him taking great initiative. He has like his confidence is there because his aim is fantastic. I just saw him in like this is being recorded during their series versus Navi, which we don't know the result of, but I just saw him take some duels versus Simple and win them. You know, I saw him take some duels against people on that team, and he's doing fine. So I think that's really just such that's just something that I think a lot of us have been really, really waiting for. And we're starting to finally see it come together because the mechanical ability was always there, but I think the confidence and sometimes just decision making was a little bit behind.
What do you
Yeah, I
think,
think you're
Ken?
100% right. 100%. Like, there's not been anything really to smile about when it comes to complexity for a long time. And the signing of Grim has been, the one beacon of hope, really. He's been consistent, he's been fragging. And I can't speak to his playstyles because, I avoid watching NACS because it's bad for you, I think. But he himself, when he goes into these European events and actually gets to play against us Europeans, he still looks good. Like, he looks really strong, frags out, and you say, he looks more assertive, more like just correct in the things he does, and that's great to see. I wish the rest of the team could take a page from his book and step things up because, as you said, Fang, we never get him good. I had his best for a long time, and Floppy's regression. I still see people defending Floppy like we're talking about extra salt. He's not that guy, like not in terms of his performances. So I don't have much hope for complexity. I think this roster needs a minimum of 3 changes to actually function. But if Grim can just get out and get onto a better team, please do it. That would be amazing for everyone involved. Honestly, the team who signs him and himself, just for getting freed from that contract.
Yeah, if people don't know, actually, even though mainly for hilarity purposes, I don't just like say the NA players aren't that good. Often, if they're overrated, like Ozzy, I just fucking go in on them and make them like a target. If there's a reason I've never done that to Grim, if you notice in the entire time, even in all the Liquid days when the stats went down and the team was terrible and everyone wanted everyone cut, like it was like one of those Cassard level takes where it's like, just kill them all, lock the doors and burn the whole thing. Like one of those level ones, right? So even in those days, the one player I never said was Grim, and the reason why was this, because if you just watched when he played in that Triumph team, he was that Triumph team. It was ridiculous. Like, sure, I'm sure he had every spot and all the comfort and everything. And sure, it was online play and it was mainly against NA teams. But that's how you climb the competitive ladder. You beat who's in front of you, then you get onto a better team. Now, his problem, I do think, in Liquid ties into what Maui's saying, which is if you know how Liquid works, Liquid is actually the worst constellation historically of NA teams, because the other NA teams at least do stuff like, right, we've all got big egos. Let's have a fight about who's going to do this or be in charge. Liquid's like, we all have big egos, but because I have a big ego, I shouldn't have to tell you what I want or who should be in charge. And let's do some like fucked up Game of Thrones, subtle like passive aggressive shit, where it's like somehow I end up getting like Nico style. I never asked for this, but I'm getting everything I want. Like, it's that shit, right? But like, is it a liege? Is it not? Everyone knows the fucking story. Spoiler, it was never Grim as far as I can tell outside and from what I've heard internally. So I think, even though the Twists one's the most egregious, because his numbers did just drop off a cliff and you saw it, he just instantly became like twice as good in Fates. The Grim one, I think Team Liquid ruined Grim. And I think what you've seen in Complexity, the time what you're saying, Maui, is him like sort of actually, the best thing that's happened in this team, as fucked up as it sounds, is that all the other stars fell apart from all those other teams. By the way, I think if tomorrow you make a totally different lineup around Floppy in his perfect spot, totally different lineup around Fang with the right in-game, I think these guys frag out again. I think they become good again. Sure, they're not going to be at European lands like King T says, like becoming the next top players. They're not going to be great players. Those players probably aren't going to make it. I think Grim is, and I think I agree with you. I think if you look at the progression, he has shown the competitive ladder progression. Yeah, he regressed a bit in Liquid, but I think the fact that everything else went to shit in Complexity means now, the joke is, if he has a bad series, he's going to have 2 good series right afterwards. Like, this is far and away, forget the stats, just I'll tell you, this is far and away the best player in this team. The only area he has left, I think, before he can become like an actual real player where, again, you should start saying maybe he should be in a Liquid, that discussion is, one, he's obviously got to maintain like an understanding of who he is as a player now. He can't, if he gets better teammates, go back to like, you take that spot, or I'll do, I could throw the flash for you. I hate when people do that when they have the skills to be the number one guy. Look, he's not like Kovacevicd, but his eye test was good. Like, as Mike said, he has very consistent aim. It's good. Like, the one problem I think he has is the next rung on the competitive ladder, which is either A, being a good team, or this is the more important one, because the one thing that'll make you hate on Grim is just remember that match against fucking Imperial at that RMR. They had them dead to rights, and he had them dead to rights. He was carrying the game. But the problem was, the team and him just got nervous. The saying in English is that it's squeaky bum time, and you saw they basically just sort of went like, after you fallen, and just let him go to the majors. So that's the thing. I agree with you, Maui. You give him like a random like group stage game in a round robin against even fate, he can frag out. He can have 2 maps like that where he just goes plus 20 somewhere. But I've got to see it sort of like in a playoff setting, like a prop. If we can start to show that, because I actually do agree, the current crop of NA players. The other thing is as well, obviously the newest ones, like the guys who came from the Cloud9s and the extra, they never got the lands. Like, they've only gotten the lands, remember, from the latter part of 2021. So I actually think if you look where Grim's tracking, dude, I think it's about perfect. If you look where he started and how many lands he's played, and he's actually going, the curve is just going up like this. No other player, I think you can say that about with an NA player. In fact, even some of the greats are in kind of dire straits. So I think he is the one real bright spot right now. And crucially for me, I don't know if he ever gets to like killer edge, but I don't think actually he needs to be like the main player. Like, I think if you had a good NA team, he would be like the dream fucking like 3rd star or something. You know, if he was in his spots, that would be like the Magus position, if you know what I mean. Like, you just take over the game at that point, as in like not role wise, but like where you are in the hierarchy of the team. You know.
Yeah. One last point I'll add on to this is actually just to throw it back. When I was your research assistant, like in 2017, you asked me who I think the rising NA players were. I just pulled up the document before this, and I put there were 4 names I put on it. First was Grim, and this was before he even played Pro League or anything like that. Yeah. Second was Exotic, who like played for CLG, but then he land dodged, and now he's just out of the scene completely. Third was Ye, actually, and then 4th was Sabrosa. So. Kind of a just some good eyes right there, just
the joke there would be like, what you're doing is you back off like the idea, it was going to be a great like CSGO. I just said he had a lot of talent for FPS, really, I just thought like, eventually you'll get to it, like, you just do it like that, don't you, If it's not this game, it'll be like another game with anime elements or something. I just figure he's going to make it. So, see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.